Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Facebook ads, and we have a special focus on getting the most bang out of your Facebook bucks. Just a couple housekeeping tips before we begin. So you know you are all muted, but you can hear me. If there's any issues with the audio, just feel free to raise your hand. If you have any comments or concerns while we're going through, just feel free to go ahead and type anything in the chat box over there. And I'll just go over the agenda for today. So we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about why you should be allocating resources to Facebook. We're going to talk about why you should use Noster specifically for your dynamic product ads. And then we're going to do a live demo. This is kind of the juicier part. We're going to be going into the interface, doing a deep dive of like custom audiences and our different kinds of ad options, and then at the very end we'll have some time for Q&A. So if you do have questions as I'm going along, just please feel free to make note of them. I'm not going to answer questions during the presentation, so yeah, just keep a note of it and we'll do our best to answer them at the very end. All right, so just a little bit of background about the person behind the voice. My name is Nicole. I'm a customer success manager at Noster. Some of you may have already spoken with me before. I'm managing accounts on the East Coast and in Canada. And some of you might know this already, but my background is mostly in the fashion industry. So I have experience working with fashion and tech with fashion and lifestyle brands. On their social media and influencer strategy. On top of that, I'm an online shopping addict, which is super helpful in my day-to-day consulting of e-commerce brands because, I really, really know the side from the consumer. And the last thing I'll say is I'm social media obsessed. So from a professional perspective, I always am on top of like what's happening in the industry and really interested to know like how these different platforms are innovating. And on a personal level, I just really enjoy using all of these different social media platforms. So if you ever want to talk about any of these topics, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to speak about e-commerce and social media. All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit about why you should be investing in Facebook. All right, so as you can see from this slide, the numbers of people on these platforms is kind of incredible. So, you have 1.6 billion people on Facebook. This is over 1/6 of the world, which is kind of crazy. And as you can see, Instagram is catching up. It's really growing very fast. So this is a huge opportunity to talk to all of these people, whether they're prospective customers or existing customers. At this point in time, you can't ignore these platforms. All right, number 2, so you're going to be able to find the people who are most likely to buy through Facebook's immense data on their users. So when you are using Facebook, it's not just the data that you're filling into your profile that Facebook is collecting. Through the pixel, they're able to capture data like real-time geolocation, dislikes, likes, shopping habits. And as a marketer, you should be capitalizing on this info together with Facebook's learning to target the best audiences in the smartest ways possible. All right, so number 3, you can fix the mobile issue. So on average, people are spending about 5 hours a day on their phones, and 1 hour out of those 5 hours is on Facebook and Instagram. Some people definitely spend more than an hour on those platforms as well. So you have the opportunity to capitalize on these platforms. Really great way to sort of introduce your brand to new customers who are browsing on mobile. Great way to show them, products. It's just a nice way to generate some interest for your brand. Okay, great. So why should you use Noster for Facebook ads? A lot of you might be thinking, oh, I already use Business Manager, or I'm already using some other platform to manage my, my ads for Facebook, so why should I use Noster? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to be telling you in a sec. All right, so it's really easy to use Noster for Facebook ads. You know, it's just kind of like a one-click installation to your e-commerce platform. All of you are already Noster customers, so you know, managing your product feed for us is going to be really simple. You don't have to worry about this at all. I will say, you know, there's no real dev work required. All you need to do is create a new ad account, make sure you're an admin for that ad account, add a payment, and you know, pretty much connect the Noster ad account in the back end, and you'll be all set up. So yeah, as I mentioned, you don't need to worry about updating the product feed because we'll be taking care of that. And you also don't need to worry about adding a pixel because we're going to be dropping a pixel onto your site. You know, and this will capture all the data necessary for dynamic product ads. So whether it's someone who's visiting your site, abandoning their cart, or buying an item, you know, we're going to be utilizing that data and showing your ads to the best possible audiences. The last thing I want to mention is we have created our interface so that it's really simple and user-friendly. I think one of the kind of biggest complaints I hear from a lot of our customers is Business Manager can be really confusing and overwhelming. You can literally use the platform to create all and every kind of ad possible, but through Noster, we've designed it so you're just focusing on dynamic product ads, you know, with a specific focus on e-commerce. All right, number 2, personalized product recommendations for increased return on ad spend. So I like to say that using Noster for Facebook is sort of like combining the best of 2 worlds. Through Noster, you have our advanced algorithms, which are showing the best personalized product recommendations, combined with, you know, Facebook's immense data on users and products, combined with their machine learning. So it's going to be very sophisticated. It's a great way to reach your customers and prospects so that they're more likely to engage and convert. Yes. All right. And I also want to say that if there are any updates to the Pixel or the API, like this is something that you don't have to worry about at all because we're continuously managing this. So yeah, again, very hands-off for your sake. All right, number 3, maximizing customer lifetime value and online sales. So I would say that using Noster is a great way to not only kind of target your prospective customers, but it's also going to be a great way to build that brand affinity and increase customer loyalty. There's a couple ways in which we're using all of our different features to help you target different kinds of audiences. One example I'll give is, you know, let's say you are a prospective customer, right? So you find out about the brand through a Facebook ad that's targeted at you. You see something that looks kind of interesting, so you click on it. You're not really thinking of buying it, right? So you land on the site. And let's say you don't actually want to buy anything, but you like what you see, so you subscribe to an email. That's already going to be like a micro conversion, and we're able to, you know, we're able to have people subscribe to emails or, you know, view a discount through a discount code. So that's another way they've interacted with Noster, and we've made them more likely to convert. Another example I can give is, let's say you are browsing a product on the site. Let's say you add it to the cart, but you're not ready to buy it yet, right? Maybe you'll see a Facebook ad that's served from us, And you know, when you click it, you're going to be seeing a relevant recommendation. Maybe it's not the item that you viewed before, but it's something else that you really like. That's another way we're kind of helping you to, you know, kind of engage that potential customer or that existing customer so that they're more likely to convert again. The last thing I want to say is that through Nosto, if you're using different features of ours, this is going to help you maintain brand consistency. So from the on-site recommendations and pop-ups to the social media ads to our email offering, you know, you don't have to worry about all of your different features being across all different platforms. If you're using all of these features through Nosto, you can just easily kind of manage these things. And it's going to create like better brand consistency overall. All right, so I think this is the part that you've probably all been waiting for, how to use advanced Facebook capabilities in Nosto. So the first thing I want to talk about is targeting all kinds of different audiences across a conversion funnel. So we've designed our Facebook ad offering so that you can target people of all different kinds of audiences. And this is really important because it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. You can't target people from these different segments with the same messaging. You're going to have to address these people in a different kind of way. So how do we do this? At the top of your funnel, you have your prospective customers. So this is going to be the largest of the audiences. You know, this is going to be highest acquisition cost overall because these people might not even know about your brand. They're at the beginning of the customer journey. Maybe they'll visit, but you know, they might not buy right away. So it's going to be really important to harness user data and target the people who are most likely to engage with your brand while thinking about your budget and optimizing for, you know, kind of the best targeting. So there's a couple ways in which we can target these audiences. The one that we suggest the most is a buyer lookalike targeting campaign. So what this is doing is looking at a seed audience of your existing customers and then finding an audience that exhibits similar behaviors to this existing group, right? So instead of kind of assuming who your customers are, we're really looking at people who exhibit overlapping behaviors and interests. By contrast, a demographic targeting campaign is where you're kind of assuming, you know, like different demographics about your key customers. So for example, you are targeting women in the US between the ages of 18 and 35, and you think that they like yoga pants and yoga because you're trying to sell yoga mats. You know, I think we typically see that the buyer lookalike targeting campaign is more effective, but I will say that demographic targeting can be really useful when you have a niche audience. So for instance, you know, I work with one customer who is a syrup company, and they know that their biggest audience are baristas and bartenders. So we worked on a campaign specifically for coffee-related syrups and only targeted baristas with interests that baristas would have. So this is something that you can definitely test out. You know, I suggest you know, adding some interest when you're trying a buyer lookalike targeting campaign, as well as trying without and seeing what works best. Another thing that you can do is you can do a collection ad unit. So this is a great way to kind of inspire you know, a prospective audience. So you can show them like really inspirational imagery or video and kind of teach them about your brand and inspire them to actually click through and arrive on your site. All right, so I'm just gonna jump out of here and dive into the back end. So if we're doing custom audiences, let's say you want to attract new customers, what you can do is you're gonna go here, you can select a buyer lookalike targeting campaign or demographic targeting. Let's say we're doing a demographic targeting campaign. We'll select next. You know, as far as location, I would definitely suggest narrowing it down if you don't ship to other countries, for instance. So if you're only shipping in the US, you know, just type United States, make sure to include the US. And let's say you definitely do not ship to Mexico, you can exclude Mexico, for example. And then you can put in those interests here. So say I'm targeting baristas. That's one example. You could do like coffee makers, for instance. And then a really cool thing I want to share is that we have the ability to show your ads across different platforms. So if you want to show your ads on Facebook and Instagram, you know, you can choose one budget to use for those platforms. And essentially what Facebook will do is optimize to show those ads based on performance. So if your ads are performing better on Instagram, they're going to show more of those ads on Instagram based on how the ads are performing. However, if you want to test it out yourself, you can also choose to create separate ads for Facebook and Instagram. So let's say I am not interested in showing my ads on Instagram at all. Boom, you're just going to show the ad on Facebook. Then here you can select age range and gender. Over here we have you know, the carousel ads. So this is going to be pulling product ads for you. And then collection ad unit. This is something we're really excited about. We recently launched this. So basically you'll have the ability to pull in a video. You know, we suggest a shorter video in here, and then you can also add like a hero image. So for instance, I'm gonna try to pull in this stock image. So I'm going to add the attractive guy wearing beanie, smiling camera image that I've shown. Literally found this on the internet, can't make that up. I didn't choose that title. So yeah, there you have, you know, your more inspirational kind of image with someone wearing a beanie, and then it's going to drop down to show you all these images. And here you'll be able to choose your copy. When you click into the link, or into the picture, this is what it's going to show you. It's going to drop down to show you all these different items. Yeah. And as for the items that are displayed, you have a lot of control over what you're showing. So you could show, for instance, best sellers, and we're going to be pulling like the best sellers, or you can do product related. So let's say I just want to show black hats, right? I have the ability to narrow it down super granularly. And you can also just choose a category as well. So let's say I just wanted like black hats. You can do something a little bit more specific. So yeah, this is something really cool. We're really excited about it. If you try this out, please share your results with us. You know, we love to hear, you know, how successful customers have been with this, and what's worked for them as they're testing it out as well. Great. All right, so let's just dive back into the webinar. So the next campaign I want to talk about is a visitor campaign. So this is a great way to engage with people who have already visited your site, who have already looked at your products, You know, there are going to be people who maybe just need a little push, a little reminder to actually purchase something that they've been viewing, or maybe something similar. And it's going to be important to understand like buying cycles when you're targeting the most relevant visitors. So what I mean by this, for example, is when it comes to like a fast fashion company, you know, maybe they are just showing like $10 t-shirts. Perhaps you don't want to show it for more than 2 weeks. Maybe if they don't buy a $10 t-shirt after 2 weeks, it's not worth it to keep showing it and showing it and showing it for months. By contrast with a higher priced item, like let's say furniture, or you know, like $600 shoes, that's a little more expensive. So maybe someone needs a couple more weeks or a couple more months to really think about whether they want to buy it. Maybe they need a couple reminders on Facebook, on Instagram, before they come back to the site and make that purchase. As far as sort of like another thing you can think about is, what can you show your visitors to, you know, entice them again? Like maybe you are offering free shipping, or maybe you have a promotion that you're running. These are all things that can drive someone back to your website. All right, so when it comes to visitor campaigns, there's a couple things that you can do. We typically suggest using the dynamic product ads. So this is going to show users items that they've viewed, as well as items that are similar to what they viewed. And you can use our custom audience feature to really hone in on your ideal target audience. And yeah, using carousel ad unit is going to be a great way to just like show those visitors the products from your brand. So let's dive back into the back end. And I'll do a custom audience retargeting campaign. Awesome. So if I'm going for people who viewed my items, yeah, maybe they're going to spend a little longer to think about my product because it's a little more expensive. So I can choose viewed in the last 90 days. And I'm going to just stress the importance also of excluding people who've purchased in the last 7 days too. This is something that I see pretty commonly when people are using custom audiences. It's really important not to annoy your existing customers, especially people who have just bought something from the site. I know me personally, when I'm shopping online, if I've already bought something, the last thing I want to see is like an ad in my face when I've just bought something. I think the exception to this is if you're doing something like a Black Friday sale. If you are doing like, you know, a 1 weekend 50% off kind of sale, then maybe you do want to target people who've recently bought from your site. So maybe, you know, if I bought something like 30 days ago, maybe it's okay to show me you know, an ad again because, oh, everything's 50% off and like I didn't buy that dress before. So this time I definitely want to go back and buy that dress. So it definitely depends on, you know, sort of your buyer cycle and the price point of your products, just all kinds of things that you want to think about when you are building out your custom audiences. Great, all right, just go back in here. All right, so the next campaign I want to talk about is a cart abandonment campaign. If you're going to only do one campaign, really suggest that you make it this one. You know, we see this as like one of the most effective campaigns, I think, across the board pretty much. So, you know, it's perfect for dynamic product ads. Again, you're going to show items that someone has already carted and items related to what they've carted. You know, and it is probably going to be a smaller audience than like your visitor and prospective customer audiences. So one of the challenges for optimizing is like understanding the buying cycle for better targeting, making sure you get that budget and the bidding right. I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen with customers is they'll choose a budget that's way too high, and then they'll end up like showing the ad way too many times to a small audience. And then this can kind of annoy your cart abandoners, or it can create like a negative relevancy score. So be mindful of this. On the flip side, you definitely want to be showing that ad enough times to remind that person that something is in their cart, so that they actually go back and convert. So for a cart abandonment campaign, we suggest the dynamic product ads, and you can use customer audiences to make it more targeted for your particular brand. And I'm just going to dive back in here. So, yep. So I want to do custom audience. I can choose people who've carted products, let's say in the last 30 days. Then I'll exclude those who've viewed. Yeah, again, you can choose to exclude those who purchased in the last 7 days. Then I'm going to do the carousel ad. One thing I do want to talk about is the copy for visual settings. A lot of times we do see customers kind of use this default text that we have, but I really want to stress the importance of customizing this messaging so it's more relevant for your audience. So something that you can do if it's a cart abandonment campaign is you can be a little cheeky. You can say something like, "Oh, you have excellent taste. Don't leave your cart waiting." And I think at this point in time, people are already sort of used to these kinds of ads, whether it's through email or on Facebook. So I think it's just a nice way to remind someone like, "Oh, hey, you have this waiting. Why not go ahead and buy it?" If you don't want to do that, you can also just use copy that incentivizes someone to come back again. So again, you can talk about like different promotions you're running. If you have free shipping over a certain threshold, like free shipping over $20, this is also a good opportunity to tell your cart abandoner that. Maybe they just didn't want to pay for shipping, but if they add something else, oh, okay, great. Now they can go ahead and purchase and get free shipping. So all good things to think about. Okay. Okay, so the last kind of campaign we're going to talk about is a recent buyer's campaign. This is a really good opportunity to kind of build upon customer lifetime value. I would say that this is one of the most underutilized campaigns when it comes to our customers. And like, I think talking about customer acquisition and prospective customers is like a very sexy topic, but you don't want to neglect your existing customer base either, because if someone's already a fan of your product, they are going to be pretty likely to come back and buy something again. So I think the challenge for a buyer campaign is going to be understanding the product life cycle and your customers' needs. Again, you don't want to be annoying. For example, if someone is a shampoo company, for example, maybe you don't want to be showing shampoo to someone who just bought a bottle of shampoo 7 days ago. I have a lot of hair, but I don't need that much shampoo. So, selecting a kind of campaign where they're going to be targeted maybe like a month after they've purchased shampoo or 2 months after, I think this makes a little more sense. And you want to make sure that your ad is like relevant and compelling, because you're going to try to entice your customer back to your site and back to your products. So a couple options we have, as far as like a buyer retargeting campaign. So you could target people who've recently purchased an item. And when it comes to this, you can do a lot of different fun things, like just showing them a new collection. You could show them like bestsellers, for example. And this is a great way to show them something new, give them another reason to come back to your site and look at some more products. Another thing you can do is kind of re-prospect churned customers. So if you have CRM data or this data in your custom audiences in Business Manager, this is a great way to attract someone who, let's say, hasn't purchased anything in like a year. Again, you can show them like new items or bestsellers, just something that is gonna drive them back to the site. And then another thing that you could do is target VIPs. So if you have a segment of customers that really purchases a lot, this is a great way to show them some special that you have, to tempt them with something that you have, like a promotion. And then the last thing you can do is segment users based on kind of their previous buying history, for example. So if you have a list of people who are Air Jordan fans, maybe you want to just show them like a collection of Air Jordans or similar sneakers. There's a bunch of things that you can do using custom audiences to really get granular with the targeting. All right, so let's just hop back in here. So you could do a custom audience. So, okay, maybe I want to target people who've purchased in the last 180 days, or sorry, last 90 days. And then I'm going to exclude people who've purchased in the last 7 days, because I don't want to annoy my recent customers. Go next. Something really cool that you can do is use our include and exclude filters. So for instance, you can include items of just one category. Like let's say you just want to show one collection. For instance, if you are doing a Christmas promotion and you only want to show your Christmas category, I'm just making this up, but you could do Christmas, enable that, and then let's say you want to exclude your Halloween collection, you could exclude that collection as well. We also have the ability to filter by new. So if you only want to show items that have just been added to your inventory in the last 30 days, let's say, you have the ability to do that as well. So this is something that's really, really useful. I think we don't suggest adding too many filters. It's best to just kind of let the algorithms run on their own. But if you have an instance like this where you just want to show like your hottest new items or a certain collection, this is going to be a great way to do that. Oh, I should also say that if you're looking into kind of re-engaging churning customers, let me just go back in here. So let's say you have a certain customer group that you're targeting, you can include them there. A collection ad unit is going to be a great way to re-inspire those customers who haven't purchased something in a long time. Especially with a video, you can do so many things today. Like you can do a tutorial or just something that's going to make someone remember your brand and come back to your store. Great. So I want to leave you guys off with a couple best practices. These are some of the things that I see a lot every day, or questions that I get from customers. So one thing that you can do to avoid viewer fatigue and to maintain a good relevance score is to make sure you're updating your copy at least once a month, especially for like a abandoned cart campaign or a recent buyer campaign. You want to keep it fresh. You want to make sure that people have a reason to shop. And I would also say that if you have any promotions going on, you know, anything special, even if it's like a new store that you've opened in a particular city, you can create an ad for that, you know, and just target people in that location. You know, so definitely think about all the things that you have going on as far as different events and promotions. And you can always include that in the copy. And then the other thing is to make sure your product images are high quality. You know, we are pulling images from the site. So, you know, think about making sure that your images are looking good. And, you know, for Instagram, we have a certain requirement. If you see that like the majority of your images are not compatible for Instagram, then, you know, I wouldn't even run that campaign if it's like 99% of your images aren't working for that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is being able to calculate how many times on average you're showing your ad to a viewer. So I'm just gonna jump back into the interface. So you have the ability to take a look at your dashboard, and we've set it up so it's really easy. Sorry, just 1 second. What you want to do is take a look at the impressions your ad has generated. All right, I'll do 28 days, for instance. And then you want to go in here and take a look at your potential reach. So what this means is if you've generated 10,000 impressions to an audience of 10,000 people in the last 28 days, you've shown that ad approximately once to each person. Of course, this isn't like totally accurate. Facebook is going to be kind of showing the ad based on someone's like interest, and you know, that kind of changes how often they're showing things. But you can use this as a sort of an estimate. So if you're only showing your ad once a month to someone, that's probably not enough. In that case, I would really think about like looking at your budget. Do I have to increase it in order to reach more people so that I show them the ad more times in a month? On the flip side, you also don't want to show your ad too many times too. So if you're showing your ad more than 10 times to each user, that might be already maxing it out. You want to make sure that you're not annoying them and you know, making a bad relevancy score for yourself as well. So if you have any questions about this, definitely reach out to your customer success manager. You know, myself or Chris, we're going to have a lot of suggestions for different things you can do to make sure you're showing your ad an optimal number of times. The other thing I want to speak about is looking at your daily budget compared to your average spend. So I would say that when you're starting out with a budget, you know, typically I'll see customers go a little more conservatively. And if your average spend is like just around that, so for instance, like it's $5 and let's say it's $4.19, you know, you could probably kind of guess that this is okay. But if you're like way above or way under, you know, you should probably take a look and figure out how you can better optimize your daily budget. All right, so that's pretty much the best practices that I wanted to share. You know, and I just want to stress the idea that if you have any questions, you know, myself and Chris, we're always looking at different customers in different verticals, you know, at different price points. So we can definitely share some best practices from all of the experiences that we've seen. And, you know, we're going to have a little bit of time for Q&A, but before we go into that, I want to mention that we have a $500 voucher today for one lucky listener. So, you know, after the webinar, we're going to be announcing who that lucky winner is. All right, so I'm just going to take some time to go through the questions. Okay, great. Is it better to show ads on Facebook or on Instagram? Great question. This is a little tricky because I'll say that it definitely depends on your vertical. So really think about who your audience is. You know, people on Instagram are typically going to be younger, and at the same time, they're using Instagram to discover products. They want products that are going to look similar to, you know, the inspirational visual content that they're just browsing. So definitely think about that. There's some kinds of customers that I would suggest not to use Instagram and to just focus on Facebook. At the same time, Facebook is also more likely to generate conversions. You have to think about the fact that like Facebook is available on mobile and desktop. So when you're on your computer, you're also more likely to convert. But you know, Instagram is definitely growing, and they are working on a lot of kind of innovations to make things more shoppable. So yeah, I think you can test it out. You can split the different campaigns, or you can just choose to try both out on it within the campaign and see how it runs. Okay, great. Next question. What should I do for Black Friday? That's a really good question. I think if you are running any sales, giving away any freebies, this is a great opportunity to let your prospective or existing customers know that you're doing that. Adding a call to action with a sense of urgency is great. So something like click here to get 20% off today. You know, that's going to be a great way to like drive more traffic to get someone to to be incentivized to make that purchase. All right, so that's pretty much all the time that we have for questions today. I see that there are a couple more questions. So if your question wasn't asked, feel free to reach out to any of us, you know, myself, Chris, or Jan. But if not, thank you so much for listening in today. And we will be announcing the winner of the voucher very soon.